Hey guys, welcome to the third and final video in this series on who are those fighters in Van Damme's martial arts classic Bloodsport. Today we're going to cover everyone who got eliminated during the semifinals of the Kumite. If you haven't seen the previous videos, make sure to check those out where I covered who got eliminated in day 1 and day 2 of the Kumite competition. I'll link them in the description below. Also, make sure to smash that like button if you want to help support the channel. Also, make sure to subscribe if you're into this kind of content because I'll be posting a lot more cool videos like this in the future. This fight's a classic, Frank Dukes versus Paco, which happened to be the first match of the semifinals and occurred on day 3 of the tournament. Paco, the Muay Thai fighter, was played by Paulo, who definitely gave us some of the more memorable fights in Bloodsport. He's kind of a legend in the world of Muay Thai kickboxing and is credited with introducing the style to Western audiences with his role as Paco in Bloodsport. He's of Portuguese and Italian descent, but grew up in Mozambique, which he says was a multiracial society where he got along with everybody. Then, after moving to South Africa, where he says it was hard for an immigrant, he got into many clashes and had a bit of a troubled past. He became involved with and a member of one of the most powerful gangs in Johannesburg, and he says stories like his usually end up in prison or the mortuary. His father started teaching him how to box at the age of 9, which is also the same age he first heard about Muay Thai when a group of fighters put on a local demonstration. He instantly fell in love with the art because he could not believe how these skinny guys like himself were so strong and dangerous at fighting. At the age of 14, at the community center nearby, he would meet boxer Willie Tawil, bronze medalist at the 1952 Olympic Games that were held in Helsinki, Sweden. Willie Tawil intervened with the town's gang problems and encouraged the youth to put their energy towards something more constructive and to take up boxing, kind of similar to what Mark Dacascos' character did with Capoeira in Only the Strong.
And so by teaching them this Brazilian Kung Fu.
Capoeira.
Yes, thank you. We will be channeling their hyperactive, hormone-driven energies into something constructive.
That's the idea!
Paulo ended up making Willie's boxing team and was learning amongst the best names in boxing in South Africa in 1977. He would later move to Thailand in order to train in real Muay Thai.
Oh, not at the Y, at a good school!
In the early 1980s, Paulo was one of the first Westerners to fight in Thailand and one of the first and few Westerners to be accepted as a foreign fighter for the prestigious and very powerful and respected Bangkok Muay Thai fighting camp, Untitled Gym. This gym was actually featured in Van Damme's Kickboxer. Paulo told producer Mark DeSell as well as Van Damme about the gym and thought it'd be great to use in the movie. From Thailand, Paulo traveled to the People's Republic of China where he was one of the first foreigners to fight there. No foreigner had fought there since 1949. His match occurred in 1985 and he came out with the win. A few years later, in 1988, he was authorized to teach and was accepted as a trainer for Untitled Gym in Thailand. When Paulo fought professionally at 145, 147, and 150 pounds, he said he never did it for the money. Rather, he fought to learn. He liked the tradition of Muay Thai, as well as the pain and sacrifice in the training. He never got locked out and says he never made easy fights. For instance, his last fight at 40 years old, which he lost, was against a young 22-year-old champion. With his skills and experience, it should be no surprise that he has actually trained several champions and has done several seminars all over the world teaching the techniques of Muay Thai. He's truly an ambassador for the martial art. One of the fighters he trained was the late Stefanos Miltsakakis, star of several Van Damme movies, who gained the championship MMA Val Tudo title in Jamaica in 2002. I've talked about Stefanos a few times on this channel now, more recently in my Who Are the Fighters in the Quest video, which I'll link in the description below. As far as film work goes, Paulo has appeared in dozens of films, primarily throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Outside of Bloodsport, he would face off against Van Damme again in Death Warrant and also appeared alongside him once more in 2003's In Hell. In an interview with SiamFighting.com, which I'll link in the description below, when referring to the muscles from Brussels, Paco says, "I like Van Damme. He's a good person. He gave me many opportunities." Paulo also does humanitarian work and helped the Karen people in Burma by bringing in medicine, etc. This is a group that Rambo's character helped in 2008's Rambo film, by the way.
Around this time of year, bring in medical supplies, medical attention, prayer books, and support for the Karen tribes people.
Overall, Paulo says he made a commitment to fight against evil and to live a positive life and credits Muay Thai with saving his own life. Here are just a few of his credentials. A senior vice president of the United States Muay Thai Association since 1993, a judge referee for the World Muay Thai Council in Bangkok, Thailand, official representative in the USA for Untitled Gym in Bangkok, Thailand since 1986. He's overall a pretty important figure in the martial arts community. So the next match in the semifinals was Chong against Chuan Mung, who finally met his match. He was played by Chiu. He had more success in the fake world of the Kumite than as an actor in the real world of life. Outside of Bloodsport, he's only appeared in one other thing, an episode of a television show called Yellow Thread Street in 1990. I don't know if he ever aggressively pursued acting or not. Perhaps his career came up against its own Chong and got stifled, putting an end to it once and for all. There's just not a lot of info on Dennis out there. But this is funny though. Someone's been using his character's name Chuan Mung as their Twitter handle since 2010, and it even has a line, Kumite, what is Kumite, in the description. There's some really hardcore Bloodsport fans out there, myself included, which is why I made this video. But Chuan Mung isn't actually the one that spoke that line. His friend Chun Wing Sum, played by Jeong, said it.
Kumite? What is Kumite?
The final fight was Frank Dukes versus Chong Li, who finally got his comeuppance.
He made him say Mate.
Chong Li was played by Bolo Yeung, the man known as both the Beast from the East as well as the Chinese Hercules. Hercules. He was actually born Yang Zi, but in the strange case of life imitating art, enough people started calling him Bolo because of his character Bolo from Enter the Dragon that it just stuck.
Bolo.
Bolo Yeung was born in China and began his martial arts training at 10. He also took an interest in bodybuilding at a young age and would later become Mr. Hong Kong bodybuilding champion in 1967 and hold that title for 10 years, which is how he got the nickname the Chinese Hercules. He was also a former mainland China powerlifting champion and his best deadlift exceeded 700 pounds. That's right up there with former Mr. Olympia bodybuilding champion Franco Colombo, a man who had a similar build. Speaking of impressive physical feats, to escape communism in the 1960s, Bolo swam from China to Hong Kong.
Swim! Hey! Swim!
That's what's been reported, but it's hard to say exactly how far he swam. Hong Kong is made up of over 250 islands, many of them uninhabited, but it's also technically connected by land to China. So I don't know exactly from where point A to point B he swam, but I think the story certainly adds to his legendary status. As far as movies go, Bolo is quoted as saying, "I know what is good for me as an actor because of the way I look. That is what I'm going to be a success in. I know my place in movies. No matter how good an actor is, if he doesn't know his place in movies, he will never be successful." He also said, "I've always been happy with playing the bad guy." Of course, most of us know him from Bloodsport, which really began his career in America. Prior to that, though, he's well recognized from Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon. During production of that film, he and Bruce Lee became friends, and they would often train for hours at a time, working closely on technique training and experimenting to see what would work and what wouldn't. Although Bolo unsurprisingly played a bad guy in Enter the Dragon, it was disappointing he never had a fight against Bruce Lee in the film. Bruce Lee assured Bolo that they would face off against one another in his next film, which was to be Game of Death. However, due to Lee's tragic death, that never ended up happening. Bolo has said in an interview years later that there will never be another Bruce Lee and that he was privileged to have had the honor of calling him his friend. Bolo did, of course, get to work with and become friends with another world-renowned martial arts movie star, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and in a much more recent interview, he has stated and compared the muscles from Brussels to Bruce Lee as far as there's no other martial artist that has reached their pinnacle of success as far as movie stardom goes.
Bruce Lee, and then Jean-Claude Van Damme, and then who? After Jean-Claude Van Damme, who is the next? Nobody.
Outside of Bloodsport, he's also appeared alongside Jean-Claude Van Damme again in Double Impact. He's got over 100 film credits to his name as an actor, mostly playing the bad guy, though he occasionally does play a good guy, such as 1993's Shoot Fighter as well as its sequel in 1996. There's actually a documentary covering his life that's in the works titled Chinese Hercules, the Bolo Yeung story. It's going to feature quite a few martial artists, including Paulo Toucha, whom I spoke about earlier, as well as Cynthia Rothrock, Matthias Hughes, Richard Norton, Don the Dragon Wilson, Van Damme's friend Peter Malata, who you'd recognize as the guy who wore spurs in Double Impact. Jean-Claude Van Damme himself is not listed in the credits on IMDb for that documentary, but it'd make a lot of sense for him to appear in it, since both men are friends and are partially responsible for each other's success. Now, the interesting thing about that documentary is that the trailer was initially posted online back in May of 2019, however, it has since been removed. Let me know in the comment section if any of you know what's going on with the Bolo Yeung documentary. So that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed learning more about those fighters in Bloodsport. If you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe. If you're new to the channel, check out the playlist. I have a Van Damme playlist, a Steven Seagal playlist, a Sylvester Stallone playlist, so make sure to catch up on all those videos that I posted in the past.